Can I use the Deferred Sales Trust for multiple asset sales? The answer is yes. Hi, I'm Brett Swarts, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We help you and or your clients defer capital gains tax on the sale of highly appreciated businesses, cryptocurrency, real estate, all tax deferred, so you can create and preserve more wealth. This is a very common question we have for our clients because sometimes it can be confusing. Do I need to set up multiple trusts per asset sale, or can I just set up one trust and have multiple assets sold into it at different times? And the beauty of the Deferred Sales Trust is it absolutely is flexible and it can receive multiple assets at different times. And I'll give you an example. We have a client, and in fact, it was two clients, and they sold a $20 million apartment complex in Las Vegas. And they had some large capital gains taxes. They had a lot of limited investors, limited partners in the deal. They were the two general partners. They each formed their own Deferred Sales Trust. And when they formed that, their equity went there upon sale, deferring the tax. And then about 4 or 5 months later, they had the second sale of an apartment complex in Phoenix, a $16 million property. And likewise, they were able to move those equity positions into the same trust. So did they have to form two trusts? No. They had one trust each for each family unit, and each of their equity positions in each sale were able to move into the same trust. Okay. Now they did a third deal here just last week for the third apartment complex, and the exact same thing. So again, they each just have one trust, but they have three equity positions in each of the one trust. Now these each have their separate promissory note. And that's really the focus here, right? Because remember, what's happening in the Deferred Sales Trust is you're lending the funds to the trust in exchange for the trust to pay you back over time. And so what you actually have is a promissory note number one, promissory note number two, and promissory note number three at different time periods to pay you back based upon each one that you designed. And if you watch the previous video I just talked about, which is designing your promissory note, or basically how do you derive the interest rates, how are these designed, what's the determination of the payback period, you can go watch that video. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere else, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com or search that on YouTube to find more about that. So that's the first most common question. Can I use it with different assets at different times? And the answer is yes. Also, the other one is different asset classes that comes up. Well, what if I have some cryptocurrency? Then I have a primary home, and I have a business position, and I have some carried interest, or these different areas that are subject to capital gains tax. What if I have some Ethereum and some Bitcoin and some XRP, and I'm selling different coins? Can I use the same trust? And the answer is yes again. The Deferred Sales Trust can accept multiple assets from different asset classes, such as cryptocurrency, a business, primary home, LP positions, GP positions, carried interest. Really, the key here is making sure that whatever you're selling has $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain. Well, at least for the first transaction, right, to establish that, unless you have two or more at 500 each that you're selling within a short period of time, because understand that the Deferred Sales Trust is in and of itself kind of like a business trust. It is a business trust, but it's kind of like a C Corp, in that we need, and we found that our clients need to have a big enough amount of money, and including a big enough amount of tax deferred, in order for it to self-sustain itself and make it a win-win financially for the client, and also make it a win-win because there's fees that the trust pays myself and my team. So those are things to consider. But once you establish that first $1 million and essentially $200,000 to $300,000 of liability deferred, then adding additional assets makes sense. Now, that doesn't mean you want to add lots of small assets, because there are minimum charges on a per transaction basis. So a good rule of thumb would say at least $1 million on the first one, and everything moving forward, at least $300,000 to $500,000 as you're moving in assets. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So it can work for different asset classes. It can do it at different times too, right? Because you might want a dollar cost average. We have a client right now who's done two deals with us. His first one, he and his wife sold about $5 million worth of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they did that based upon an exit price of about $3,000 for the Ethereum. Now, their Ethereum had grown to about 13 million prior to that $5 million exit. So now they had 8, but they thought there was more upside in Ethereum, and sure enough, there was. As of just a few weeks ago, it hit all-time highs and somewhere around, I think, $4,600 a coin for Ethereum. So when that happened, they had another plan and they exited another 2.5 million. So now they have about 7.5 million in the trust. And then the actual amount in the marketplace is probably somewhere now around about 9 or 10, give or take. And so that's part of what we also want to help you do, is to exit smart when it makes sense for you. And we call it reverse dollar cost averaging. Exit when it makes sense, especially if you have something like cryptocurrency, right? Because there are times to sell and there's times to buy, and you might want to take some of that risk off the table, but you're probably not going to want to do it all at once, right? And that's fine. That's why the Deferred Sales Trust is flexible. Unlike a 1031 exchange where the whole entity must move, and or all of your equity basically has to move at the exact same time, this can create a lack of diversification, lack of liquidity, and oftentimes clients overpay for properties. And I have a whole series on that, the 1031 exchange versus the Deferred Sales Trust. You can go to my YouTube channel, or if you're on it right now, you can just search on the playlist. But remember, 1031 exchanges only apply to investment real estate. So you want to be aware of that. That doesn't apply to cryptocurrency or primary homes or businesses. So the last thing I want you to know as well, we can save a failed 1031 exchange, which oftentimes means we're doing partial amounts into the Deferred Sales Trust and partial amounts into what's called a Delaware statutory trust and or a 1031 exchange, depending on the circumstance that we're trying to solve. For example, mortgage over basis. That's where your debt is above your basis. We typically will use what's called a Delaware statutory trust to defer the tax as well as to replace the debt requirement. And then the rest of it can go into the Deferred Sales Trust. So that all applies because you can move not only multiple assets at different times, but multiple amounts at different times. So I look at this, and the analogy is like a Rubik's Cube. And so when you first show up to us, your Rubik's Cube has all the colors and all the different places. It's all kind of mixed match. And we spend time with your CPA, with you, with the financial advisor, my business partner, with the tax attorneys, my business partner, and me as the trustee. And we're all together trying to work on this Rubik's Cube. And sometimes we're passing it to the tax attorney to work on. Sometimes we're passing it to the financial advisor to work on. Sometimes we're passing it to your CPA and then yourself. And we're all working on this. And ideally, by the time you're ready to close, those colors are all lined up on each side, right? The yellow's on the yellow, the red, the green, the blue. It's all one-sided color as much as we can. That's part of the tax system we're in, right? There's a lot to work through. It's part of my love for the Deferred Sales Trust too, is solving these complex problems and helping you solve the problems as well. If you want to learn more, I would love to connect with you. We do have a mastermind every single Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. I call it Deferred Sales Trust University. We bring on clients, we bring on strategic alliances, new folks learning about it for the first time, to ask questions, to learn about it, to really simplify the process of the Deferred Sales Trust. You can register right now by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Hey, we so appreciate you watching this video. We encourage you to rate, review, subscribe. Check out our podcast as well if you don't already know that. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. If you're not hearing or watching that here right now, you can by searching Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Thanks, everybody, for watching this video, and we will talk to you again real soon.